person. We had our annual meeting networking a couple of weeks ago. I saw a lot of familiar faces there. But this is our first in-person logistics event since March of last year, and if you all recall, a lot of things were happening last year in March, so excited to see you all back here in person. We really have a good conversation today about the updates on transformation and transportation. So be a good conversation. There'll be an opportunity for Q&A at the end. We have our speakers here. But before we do that, we have a couple of sponsors, but I just wanted to kick it off with some CRLC updates. One thing is, we've really been able to help a lot of our members and a lot of the community. We started off being a business development resource probably first quarter or two of last year. Then we transitioned into being a lot of our workforce resources with Jewish Family Services and our Workforce Development Vice President, Kelly Fuller, stepping in to really help a lot of our members. From there, we transitioned into really helping out with a lot of real estate needs, development, new builds, leasing options, etc. So really a multifaceted approach to helping our members. And obviously now today, moving into that transportation space, having conversations about the innovations that Columbus, our region, our membership, a lot of our sponsors here today are able to focus on. We're going to have a follow-up conversation today with a lot of transportation in the workforce, because today we're going to have an overarching conversation, not particularly about workforce. I'm sure the speakers here today will touch on that. But we're going to follow up to speak about specifically how are we getting our workforce to their places of work, to be able to fill that void that a lot of our members are having and fill in the workforce, a lot of the challenges, obstacles, whether it's transportation, childcare, whatever else it may be. So stay tuned for more information for a follow-up conversation on that. Another update I want to talk about is our Women in Logistics Scholarship. We take a lot of pride in doing that every year. We have our annual Women in Logistics event. This year, of course, that event was virtual, but we were able to raise some money for that scholarship. And I'm excited to announce that we do have 4 $1,000 scholarships that will be submitted this year to Columbus State Community College. So please stay tuned for those winners. We hope to be able to announce who they are and maybe invite them out to an event so they can get some face time and have a chance to network, because obviously they'll be entering the workforce soon. So anyone who's interested in donating to that, I know Ease Logistics here has mentioned that they're interested. We have another one of our members, Coalescence, who has also made a contribution to that scholarship. So anyone who's interested in contributing anything additional to those 4 $1,000 scholarships, please do let me know, and we'll make sure to get that submitted to our team. Last thing for me is our December mixer. We're going to be at Brewdog this year. That's a big event for the Columbus Region Logistics Council every year. We're expecting, upwards of 100 people or more. Last year we had it virtually. We still had that decent turnout. So we're really excited to be at Brewdog. They're one of our newest members of the Columbus Chamber and the Columbus Region Logistics Council. So we will be down in Canal later this year. So stay tuned for updates, programming, etc. We're really excited about that. So we'll go ahead and get into the program. So I'll introduce our sponsors first, and then I'll come back up and introduce the speakers. We'll start with Cedric. We have CareWorks Comp is Cordell.
Well, thank you and good morning, everyone. It is great to be joining here this morning at the CRLC event. My name is Cordell Walton, Business Development Manager with Sedgwick. Sedgwick is a workers' compensation risk solutions provider for employers across the state of Ohio. We help employers understand their risks and prevent losses so they can achieve the lowest cost possible. When an injury does occur, we have the experience and expertise to handle even the most complex claims in a straightforward and efficient manner. Sedgwick is a proud partner of member of the Columbus Chamber of Commerce. This morning, please stick around after today's meeting, because to celebrate our first in-person CRLC event since March of 2020, we will be picking 10 random registrants to receive a $10 Crimson Cup and Coffee and Tea gift card and bag of coffee. So thank you to Greg Hubert and the team at Crimson Cup for this generous gift. I'd like to turn the mic back to Zaki to introduce the rest of the speakers this morning. Thank you.
Thanks, Cordell. Next we have Brandon from one of our sponsors, Snyder Downs.
Good morning, everyone. I apologize in advance. I'm not quite as polished as Cordell is, so I do have to use a script. But welcome to the Columbus Region Logistics Council's Smart Logistics updates on the transformation of transportation. As Zaki mentioned, my name is Brandon Embrace. I am a senior audit manager with Schneider Downs, a presenting partner of the CRLC's event series. Across Ohio and throughout the world, we're experiencing the rapid transformation of transportation, driven by emerging technologies, including automated, connected, and electric vehicles, both on the ground and in the air. These changes are impacting the logistics industry with opportunities for significant improvements to the safe, easy, and equitable movement of people and goods. Schneider Downs is honored to be a presenter of today's event. For those of you not familiar with our firm, Schneider Downs is a full-service accounting and business advisory firm. We serve a diverse range of entities in the public and private sectors, from small, closely held businesses to large publicly traded companies. Within our firm, the Schneider Downs Transportation and Logistics Industry Group serves a wide range of transportation and logistics clients, from local carriers to national enterprises, including trucking, general freight, flatbed and box TL, LTL, tank waste brokerage, bulk commodity dump, 3PL, heavy hauling and permitted loads, moving, and warehousing. There are probably a few more in there that I forgot. Specific to our transportation and logistics industry focus, we have over 50 years of experience providing traditional accounting, financial reporting, and tax services to many companies in this space. In addition, through the 80 service offerings that Schneider Downs business units offer, we also provide technology, wealth management, due diligence, valuations, risk mitigation, and other forward-thinking business solutions. If anyone has any questions about what we can do for your business, feel free to talk to me or any one of my colleagues in the back after the event. And thank you for the shameless plug. With that said, thank you all for joining us this morning in support of the Columbus Region Logistics Council, an initiative by the Columbus Chamber. We look forward to today's conversation. Thank you.
Thank you, Brandon. So those are two of our great sponsors, but if anyone's interested, we have Tim McKelly is in the back here. He is now responsible for all of our sponsorship conversations, so please have a conversation with him if you're interested in anything. An event sponsor, Logistics Council, Columbus Chamber. We also have a newsletter, logistics newsletter as well, so please speak to Tim. So again, like I mentioned, we do have an opportunity for Q&A at the end today, so I'm going to go ahead and introduce our speakers, but we kept it intimate. There are probably about 40 or so people here today, so if you do have a question, feel free to raise your hand or shout your question out. I'm sure Thea, Sam, and Rich here won't mind. With that being said, I'll go ahead and introduce the three of them. We have Sam Spotforth, who is the CEO of Clean Fuels Ohio. Thea Ewing, who is the Director of Transportation and Infrastructure Development at MORPC. And last but not least, we have Rich Granger, who is Managing Director of Workforce and Economic Development for DriveOhio. Looking forward to it. Enjoy.
Well, good morning, everyone. Thanks, Zaki, for inviting us, and glad to see all of you and be part of this conversation. It's been a while since I've got to see Rich in person. Sam, I'm on his board, so we stay in regular contact for sure, virtually and in person. But lots of things have been happening, and just like you, we've been working during all this time, whether it was back in our home offices or with our teams in the offices. And this space has continued to move forward as this pandemic has presented itself to us. So I want to kick off in just a brief introduction for each of us, just to understand where we're at in this world of logistics. As he mentioned, I'm Thea Ewing. I'm with the Mid-Ohio Regional Planning Commission. You can think about us, we're a little bit like a chamber of commerce, but for local government. And we receive many grants from the federal government in order to disperse those down to the local public entities who need to get specific things done, like the city of Columbus We may be helping them with a street project and a multi-million-dollar award to make that happen. But it could also be the city of Hilliard or a small village, so any of those in between. One of the things we have to do is a very long-range transportation plan that looks at the future. We have one that goes out to 2050. And so you can imagine all of the futuristic things we're going to talk about that have to be incorporated into that planning effort, and some of the shots in the dark we have to make to determine what the future is going to look like on our roadways. So we're really involved in all things transportation locally, but we don't own all those projects. All the owners are the local cities and ODOT. So I have a friend here from DriveOhio, which is, they work with ODOT pretty closely, but not necessarily ODOT. So Rich, why don't you do a little small introduction about DriveOhio?
Sounds great. Thanks, Thea, and good morning, everybody. So, DriveOhio, we are an initiative of the Ohio Department of Transportation. We're the state's center for smart mobility, and when we say that, we mean automated, connected, and electric vehicles and infrastructure on the ground and in the air. So, what does that mean in plain English? Self-driving cars, drones, all sorts of stuff that might sound like weird science. We're actually working on it right now, and as we get rolling here, we'll give some examples. And my particular role is workforce and economic development, so I'm focused on smart mobility jobs and talent all around the state, from pre-K up to PhD for any age group you can imagine. So that's my story, and we'll elaborate as we go.
All right, Sam, and I'm the proud president of Sam's board, so, and his team does a phenomenal job, so tell us about it.
You know, man, I really have to behave myself because of that. He is watching everything that I say. But yeah, I'm Sam Spofford, and I just also wanted to thank Thea, but also thank Zaki for including me in a way that makes sense from a business standpoint. And so we're very focused on the bottom line, looking at the return on investment that might be achieved through making those kind of changes. And then kind of what the environmental or the sustainability profile is going to look like as a result of that. We have a program called Ohio Green Fleets. So once a fleet is able to kind of make those transitions, it's a metrics-driven program that based upon how that you score, we can certify you if you achieve a certain number of points as an Ohio Green Fleet, and then kind of help you promote that certification to your customers, to partners and clients and whatnot. So there's a lot more we do work on policy issues as well, etc. But I guess I'll leave that for Q&A as well.
Yeah. Thanks, Sam. So now you kind of have a good taste of what we're doing. Two really kind of state level folks, and I'm more of your local entity trying to kind of help people here on the ground. So let's kick off and talk about autonomous vehicles and connected vehicles, and I'll add to this as I can, but I think the real superstar on this topic is Rich. The state is just doing so much. So could you tell us about kind of the latest and greatest in autonomous and connected vehicles at the state?
You bet. So this is a space where there is actually a good amount of technology that's already here, and quite a bit more that's being tested. So I'll kind of describe a little bit of both. So let's start with the connected vehicle side of things. So what we're talking about is communication between vehicles, vehicles communicating with the infrastructure, all in the name of safety, efficiency. And so a great example here in Central Ohio is the 33 Smart Mobility Corridor. Some of you may have heard about it. Some of you are actively working on it or positioned near it. So it starts in Dublin, runs along 33 through Marysville up to East Liberty, where the Transportation Research Center sits. Quick plug for TRC, it's the nation's largest independent automotive proving ground. Although they're close to Honda's facility, they're independent. They've got, I think it's over 800 clients, some of which we can talk about, others of which I don't even know who they are. But it's some really, really interesting stuff going on up there. And so next week, as a matter of fact, we're going to have a formal ribbon cutting on the 33 corridor, just kind of unveiling a little bit more detail about what has happened. There's been plenty published over the years about some federal funding that we received. It's all about creating an environment for testing. It's within an area that we call the Beta District, a partnership between Dublin, Marysville, Union County, Smart Columbus, other partners, all around innovation and transportation. So back to this idea of connected vehicles, we've got infrastructure along the 33 corridor, we've got fiber optic cable installed along 35-mile stretch, we've got units positioned for this dedicated short-range communication between vehicles. But you know what? Vehicles are already connected, right? Let me see, how quickly can I find my connected device? Everybody's got one of these. But do not look at this while you're driving. That's my ODOT announcement for the day. And so we've got these informal and more formal versions of connectivity, and it keeps evolving. You've got 5G on the way. Part of it's here, more of it's coming. Just yesterday, the state of Ohio announced a plan for broadband and 5G expansion around the state with workforce tie-ins to all of that. So these things are all interconnected. You know, you've got these different technologies that don't fit neatly into a single box. So when you go from the world of connected to now automated, that's also happening along that 33 corridor, but that's kind of spilling all across the state. The testing at the TRC happens on a closed track. 33 was designated as this corridor because then you can just drive right out of the gates of TRC, merge right onto the 33 corridor, and off you go for testing. And so we have a few sponsored programs at DriveOhio that we're managing that are enabling that technology. They're federal grants. We've got one that's focused on the Interstate 70 corridor. It's called the the I-70 Truck Automation Corridor, a 4-year grant from U.S. Department of Transportation connecting Columbus, Dayton, and Indianapolis, and other destinations around that. But that's sort of the central spine of the focus of the project. The federal funds are going to be used to deploy technology with partners like you here in this room. So more information will be coming out about that project. And we've already been releasing bits and pieces, but now that we're really rolling, we're going to have information sessions. We're going to be providing more information about different levels of automation that will be deployed on that project. You've got, if you use the very technical SAE levels of automation, level 2 is like when you're combining several of these different modes of like adaptive cruise control and lane keeping assist. You put them all together and have a little bit of light decision making in the vehicle, that's a level 2. And you know, in the commercial space, you might see somebody like Tesla talking about things like that. That may be a familiar example, but you've got lots of other players working in the level 2 space. Some of them are a little more quiet, like Bosch and others that tier 1 suppliers to automotive, and of course getting into the trucking space as well. And then we'll have level 4 automation as part of that test as well. We have a different grant switching to Southeast Ohio called Automated Driving Systems, so we're deploying down there to understand how do these technologies work when the roads are maybe look a little different than an interstate. You've got gravel roads, you've got maybe lack of painting and striping. That's not a criticism of the roads, that's just the way they are. So how do we make sure this technology evolves in that direction? We'll have some passenger vans and also some trucks deployed in that area. We'll have an RFP coming out soon on that for some partnerships there. And then, you get some of this technology, as I said, is already here. Platooning with close following of trucks. We had a demonstration with a company called Locomation through an area called the Smart Belt Coalition that ties Pennsylvania, Ohio, and Michigan together. That ran along the turnpike. We had law enforcement partners. We've got this DriveOhio Alliance, and if you're talking with us, you're part of it. It's that easy to get in, and it's industry, it's government, it's education, it's all these partners working together and making sure this stuff goes. And I guess the last point I'll make is that these things can be much smaller too. Sidewalk delivery is already happening. There's a company called Starship that's doing sidewalk delivery robots at Bowling Green State University, and then they expanded into the city of Bowling Green. And more locally here, just this semester, Ohio State announced a partnership with Grubhub. They've got similar robots running along the sidewalks on campus on the Oval right now. So small, medium, and large, some of these things are already here and the rest is in development. So.
Wow, that is so much. One of the things you were talking about was the OEMs, or the original equipment manufacturers for vehicles, and you may know that MORPC was involved with a Hyperloop pitch and trying to work towards connecting, and we're still working on that and rail. But one of the things that I learned from that was that there's a really big emphasis on smart vehicle, dumb infrastructure, right? And our infrastructure is somewhat smart, and we do spend a lot of time investing in it. But the truth is that vehicle is always going to be smarter. So I always find that to be probably one of the most interesting talking points about this subject, is that although we are making these investments, just keep in mind the manufacturers are the ones that are really, that private sector component has to be there, and it's getting there. And we need to be able to bring up to that space where, at least to make it smart enough for that smart, the smart vehicles to be able to leverage those. So speaking of smart vehicles, many of the newer vehicles that have these autonomous and connected features that can kind of interact with the environment happen to be new fuels too, right, Sam? So tell us a little bit about what your role in that process looks like.
Sure. Well, yeah, just to kind of build on what I was saying before. So we do work with various companies and also governments that have fleets and kind of looking at what types of technologies and fuels will pencil out in various ways. And, I guess to kind of focus in on electric, we see I guess just at a high level, we see certain use cases for fleets making sense now or very soon, and then others maybe not making sense until a little bit further down the road. So a use case in terms of the logistics industry that we think makes a whole lot of sense right now is electric yard tractors, or terminal tractors, yard hostlers, they go by different names. And right now we have industry providers. In fact, one of our OEM tier 1 suppliers in Ohio, Dana Corporation, based up in Maumee, is providing all the electric components for a company that's selling EV terminal tractors right now in the market. So there's a handful of manufacturers. There's a lot of data behind these vehicles. Basically, if you can, as a company that operates these tractors, if you can work with a 6-year return on investment and buying vehicles outright and then looking at operations that are going to save you a lot of money kind of on an operating basis and on a maintenance basis, that vehicle is going to pay back in about a 6-year period. There's also a program that's it's probably the best kept secret of any program within the state of Ohio. It's run out of the Ohio Air Quality Development Authority. And if you can finance that vehicle, work with a bank or a lender that works with the OAQDA, and even if you're leasing or kind of working with the leasing companies on those vehicles, that you can finance the purchase of an electric terminal tractor and then repay those loans within a 10 to 15 year period based upon the lifespan of that through the operational savings. And by doing so, you also get a tax break. Through the OAQDA, you can get full sales tax forgiveness on that, and then even partial property tax forgiveness, because you're going to need to do some charging infrastructure for that vehicle also. So there are some programs out there. There are vehicles that in the logistics space make a lot of sense right now. I'd say the other use case to really highlight now would be the last mile delivery vehicles. So a kind of light to medium duty cargo van or other type of delivery vehicles, those Amazon trucks that we see in our neighborhoods. That's also a very good use case because it's low speed, it's stop and go, it's an urban application. And so as we look at these opportunities, those are at least 2 use cases that we see right now. They're really doing a lot to experiment, just as an example, with these kind of local freight, class 6 box trucks, for example. And then kind of like that final use case in terms of over the road are going to be those long haul class 8 vehicles. Use a lot of power, they've got to go a lot of miles between charges, so they need a lot of batteries. Those batteries are heavy, but those batteries are going to get better and better. They're going to get less and less expensive. And so eventually, and we're not quite sure, it might be hydrogen, it might be electric. Right now, though, it's natural gas or even biodiesel. So right now, if electric isn't an option, chances are, so something like a biofuel or natural gas trucks are going to be a viable option right now. And it makes sense to do things sooner rather than later. So again, those are just, it's kind of a framework for kind of what makes sense now, what makes sense later.
Yeah, we fund a lot of projects, and I think, you know, our funds are eligible for electric vehicles for our members and electric fueling station or charging stations for the local governments. And I think that's one of the things you're going to see with us a little bit more in the next coming years is our members are going to be kind of pushing that direction. They're going to want to see more of these locations for charging in their community, helping support maybe unique places where it may not be easy for the private sector to actually make these installations. That's where those federal funds can help extend those electric out to these key places, or where there's multiple unit dwellings for some of your team members that maybe live in apartments or that are older, they don't have a garage to charge these vehicles in. That's the kind of thing you're going to really see us in those spaces. In addition to that, and it kind of goes along with the connected vehicle and the electric vehicle conversation, because we are in that funding space, we've instituted something, and it's actually been out for about 2 years, a smart streets policy. So that means whenever a local government receives funding through our federal funds that we have here at MORPC, all of our members have agreed that they will check into ensuring that, you know, broadband could be installed while we're doing this project, or we're going to work to connect that local firehouse, or you know, we'll pull in a private sector partner who's looking to add fiber. The whole idea isn't like a mandate on smart streets, but the idea being that if you're going to open up the road for this reason, at least check to see if there's other reasons that can advance us in the future, not only on infrastructure, but that local library, the school, what, you know, whoever's along that route. So really kind of helping build out that fiber network in Central Ohio. We're also going to be getting more involved in that broadband conversation at MORPC as the legislation evolves. We're just kind of keeping track of what's going on at the federal level. We know there's more investments there. We know that those will be coming our direction, so we're really excited to be in that space too. So Rich, I mean, electric, I know Sam's worked with you and his team's worked with you on electric, so what's the state doing on electrification?
Yeah, so glad to add on that. So yeah, it's been a great partnership with the team at Clean Fields, Ohio. And so what we started with in June of last year, DriveOhio released a statewide study with several co-authors focused on the infrastructure to support all of this. So I think Sam mentioned a little bit about the idea of charging infrastructure. You know, in pop culture, you might hear people talking about range anxiety. You know, how far can I get with this electric vehicle? That's real. That's a legitimate question. And so we dug in with some partners and answered that question with some recommendations on how to spread that infrastructure out. And it wasn't just an academic paper. It was done in close coordination with the Ohio EPA, who then promptly released a call for proposals with funding from the Volkswagen diesel settlement to support the deployment of level 2 charging stations. When we say level 2, it's a different level 2 than the automation I was talking about earlier. This is a level of charging infrastructure. Those engineers, boy, they just make it so confusing. And so think about like a plug on the back of a dryer, that kind of infrastructure. So that call for proposals was put out last year, and the awards were announced earlier this year, and we're not done. So now we are looking at a new study that's about to be published. I'm told by next week it should be out, so watch the DriveOhio website and sign up for updates. You'll see us push information out on this. It's a study about fleets and electrification. And it's also got a section about workforce, which is near and dear to my heart. That's where my focus is. And so we're excited to put this out there. It's informed by a lot of great stakeholder interviews and feedback. I haven't read it cover to cover, so I'm not going to attempt to summarize it for you here, but watch for that. And again, we're not done yet with the funding part either, because my understanding is Ohio EPA next year will put out another call for funding, this time for DC fast charging. So if you've ever seen like those Tesla superchargers, it's that sort of idea. And we're just going to keep going on this. And we're also looking, I mentioned there's a workforce section in that study that's about to come out. We're in advanced discussions now with the state's team focused on workforce about how can we have regional conversations about the workforce to support all of this, repairing vehicles that are electric and hybrid, installing infrastructure and maintaining infrastructure to charge all of this. And then, of course, all the engineering, design, and manufacturing that goes with it. So we're really just getting started, but we're moving with a sense of urgency, because you see these headlines about electrification of, even if you just look at the automotive companies with announcements, our friends at DriveOhio have pointed out that between 2021 and 2025, the number of nameplates, vehicles that you can purchase with electric as part of the powertrain is going to double. And then it's probably going to double again, is my guess. I don't have the data to back that up, but you're seeing this sort of exponential growth. And in the past few years, as auto sales kind of dropped off, the percentage of electric vehicles compared to where they were before has gone up by triple digits. So, within that segment, it's growing. So this is happening, and we want to be ready for it across the state.
And they're just so fun to drive. I mean, that's just it. They have all of the modern amenities on them. They're connected to all your devices. I think the only thing I worry about is the outdating. They're out there. So early adopters are going to go through a couple of these before kind of the general public, and I'm kind of in that. Somewhat. I like to keep a split fuel vehicle in my household just because I love that electric side of it. I can't wait till I can get over this range anxiety to get into a full electric vehicle because they are just so much fun. And before we leave this topic, because we're going to kind of pivot another direction, Sam, you are the electric expert, so I just want to make sure you've got all those thoughts and projects you're working on out there. Anything else on electric vehicles you want to share with this crowd?
It's kind of hard to. I mean, there's a lot happening. I guess maybe one comment that I'll make is to dig in. Sort of this crosses a little bit into workforce, but it's also kind of a very much of a focus on equitable access to clean mobility. So we've actually partnered, and I'll call out Thea and MORPC on this, because MORPC actually led and submitted the application. We did a lot to support it, but it's a project, and we actually have a couple projects like this, but this would be one that would focus on increasing EV charging infrastructure tied to street lights, focused on multi-unit residential properties where people often don't have access, making sure there are things like they're called mobility hubs that offer a combination of DC fast charging and level 2 charging at rec centers and libraries and those kinds of places within the community, just to make sure that as the market continues to grow, and I'm the proud owner of it's a very, very geeky car, but it's 2013 Nissan Leaf, very old electric vehicle. But there are more and more, as the market grows, as the years go by, there are going to be more and more used vehicles in the market that are more affordable for people at various income levels. And as that occurs, we want to make sure that people can have access to a place to plug in that car, ultimately at home, or very much on the neighborhood, on the street, or whatever. So there's projects that we're working on, again in partnership with MORPC and others. Another example of that is a project we have with Columbus Yellow Cab, which is, I think, probably the most innovative and forward-thinking taxi cab company in the U.S. And they're building out these mobility hubs, a combination of DC fast charging, level 2 charging, and then making these vehicles accessible to anyone that wants to jump in and gain employment through providing shared mobility services with a yellow cab vehicle, and kind of stationing those in not just at their headquarters, but in neighborhoods all over the city to, again, just make the access easier. So there's a lot there, and it relates also to workforces, because it's something that we would love to work with anyone who is in the logistics industry working to get access to people in their neighborhoods. But we think workplace charging, having charging at the workplace is also very important, because if you are an employee, you live in a place where you cannot plug in at home, well, maybe you can plug in at work. And so, workplace charging, those kind of projects, again, we'd be very interested in working with people on.
Awesome, thanks. And thanks for plugging the grant we went after together. I have my fingers crossed on that because it could benefit so many. CODA, one that you folks in this room might be very aware of, great. The Rickenbach, Groveport, Rickenbacker area employment bus that's down there, they would receive an electric vehicle out of that. ARC Industries, who does a lot of the cleaning in our downtown offices, and they work with people who have disabilities or challenges. So lots of partners, including training partners. So it's just, yeah, it's a really exciting opportunity. We're going to keep plugging away after this, even if it's not this pitch, because we know there's going to be more money coming down the pike. So I think it's really exciting talking about all this new technology with these two. But if you didn't think the future is his team at DriveOhio have been up to all kinds of altitudes, talking about working in drones and aerial vehicles. And I can't say that this is an area that we've charted much territory in at MORPC, as we're more of a surface transportation funded organization. But this is going to be a reality for all of us. And, you know, thinking about all the rules and infrastructure that we've built on the ground and how that lays out in an area where there's nothing to be built, but certainly a lot of rules that need to be come up with. So tell us what you got going on tonight. NASA's involved? I mean, hello, first in flight again. Thank you. Go for it, Rich.
When I was a kid, I dreamed of working for NASA, and now I'm working on projects with NASA. I mean,
I know,
how
cool.
cool is that, right? So Fly Ohio is another initiative of the Ohio Department of Transportation. It's a twin initiative of DriveOhio. We're all on the same team. We all work for the same boss. And Fly Ohio is focused on this advanced air mobility in the air. And so what are we talking about? When you hear the word drone, you might picture something you could buy on Amazon or a small little drone, and that's not wrong, but that's just the beginning. When we talk about these aircraft, we're talking about what they call electric vertical takeoff and landing aircraft. And sometimes a twist on that is short takeoff and landing aircraft. So these things, you know, imagine, I don't know, right here on the top of a parking garage, this thing goes straight up and then it takes off, and it's all electric. They've got videos of these things, they're real, and this isn't just a science project, this is happening. There's major investment from industry, there's major investment from government. So what is happening in Ohio, and why is Ohio so special and so well positioned for this? Well, you look at the history of our aviation and aerospace, and that tells you a lot about it. I mean, it's not just a cliche that the Wright brothers started here. They literally built their business around the Dayton area, Dayton-Springfield area. You've got Wright-Patterson Air Force Base as a major employer, probably one of the largest employers in the entire state. And so we were perfectly positioned when the Air Force decided to make a major investment in these platforms. Why did they do that? It was actually for national security, for supply chain, to say, we watched small drones, those little DJI type drones get built mostly overseas. We don't want to see that happen with these larger platforms. This has to be homegrown, home developed to diversify the manufacturing and supply chain as this evolves. So the Air Force launched a program called Agility Prime, a major investment in the certification of these flights, and guess where they picked most of this to happen? Springfield Beckley Airport near Dayton. Ohio is a major hub for this activity. If you're following this industry at all and you see these names like Joby, Beta, Lyft, Kitty Hawk, they're all testing or will soon be testing at Springfield. And then NASA comes in and brings this national campaign where they pick certain states for deployment. Guess who they picked? Ohio. We're not the only one, but we're one of the few. And you know, the feedback we got on our proposal was there was nothing wrong with it. I mean, you almost never hear that, right? They're excited to work with us. So you've got this company, Kitty Hawk, as a major partner there, working with healthcare providers. We're talking about cargo use cases. It's a 3-phase program with NASA that starts in and around Springfield, where we've got this system called SkyVision that was co-developed, not Skynet, okay, like sci-fi, SkyVision, that was co-developed with the Air Force to do low-altitude air traffic control in the 0 to 2,000 foot space, maybe a little higher, maybe get my numbers off a little. But the point is, what happens when all this stuff starts buzzing around? How do you do air traffic control? What's special about SkyVision? It ties together 3 different FAA radars to create a 200 square mile test bed. And that's what makes Springfield so special right now, is they've got those assets, we're industry friendly, we're ready to go. And so the company, Kitty Hawk, that's a partner here, leads to an interesting analogy. We talk about these self-driving cars and everything that's happening right now. A lot of that comes out of the Pittsburgh ecosystem, believe it or not, with Carnegie Mellon over there. And 15 years ago, the Department of Defense, DARPA, invested in these self-driving car challenges, and now the Pittsburgh economy is booming with self-driving car companies, technology companies. Why do I tell this story? Because we are at the beginning of that same 15-year journey here in Ohio with the Agility Prime defense investment. So this is, we think, going to be a major driver of the economy here in the state of Ohio. We've got use cases under development for healthcare delivery, package delivery like Kroger, and we're going to be doing this exciting Vertiport Innovation Challenge in October with higher education partners. We're getting students lined up with industry to develop ideas for these vertiports that could go like right out there or anywhere around the city. So just stay tuned, we're just getting started.
It's so cool. I got to sit in one of the Bell vehicles at the Consumer Electronics Show. That's a great place to see a lot of these technologies as they evolve. Highly recommended if you have a reason in your industry to be there. You learn some about your industry, but you can go check out some of these other booths. And as we get more into out of this virtual environment, hopefully you can get out and see some of these technologies, even here in the state of Ohio, which will be awesome. Now, one of those other states is North Carolina, right? We've got to beat them.
The Wright brothers took a vacation there for a flight.
I know.
They came back here and built their business.
Yeah, and now it's like everything they claim us all the time. So yeah, really excited to see this take off. And I don't know, Sam. You know, I work with you quite a bit. Have you been involved in this aerial vehicle world at all?
No, I mean, that is an example of the vehicles that move that we are not currently working with, but it's very exciting, and it's also great to hear that Ohio is playing such a strong role here.
Yeah, and then there a big announcement coming up in the next couple of weeks with Accelerate Ohio. It's out of state, but...
So yeah, with Jobs Ohio, we're working closely with them across all these domains and across all these industries, automotive, aerospace, logistics, federal and military. And so the Accelerate Ohio campaign kind of brings all that together. We've started with sort of a low-key roadshow with some of our economic development partners around the state, and there'll be more coming. So
yeah, there's a big national mobility conference in Austin in about 2 weeks, and they're really going to push that out and kind of say, hey, if you want to be in this business, come to Ohio. Which I love the fact they're going to Texas to do that. So, all right. So let's kind of round this out. We got about 8 minutes probably now. And Zaki, let me know 10 minutes. Workforce. Oh my goodness. We all three have some stuff to talk about workforce and what this means, this whole world. I think Sam, why don't you tell us about what you're doing to impact workforce in kind of that equal fueling opportunities for everybody. Go ahead.
Again, there's a lot going on. I think one is, I guess where it starts is that obviously Ohio is a major auto manufacturing state, and that's not just final assembly, but it's even more so the tier 1 and tier 2 supply chain for truck, bus, auto, etc. manufacturing. And we have some exciting companies, some exciting new companies like Lordstown Motors. There's a company called Indira Bus that just purchased Titan Metro up in Ottawa, Ohio. I mean, there's many examples like that. And so one of the things that we're doing is focusing on state policy and how can we kind of increase the state's investment, build on what's already been done through Tech Cred and other programs like that, but build on that investment in terms of the workforce that will be needed, for example, to install electric vehicle charging stations. We have a partnership with the electrical trade centers and a project called Power Connect, where they're doing a lot with that. We want to invest more in those kinds of workforce development efforts. Invest more in terms of automotive technicians. Obviously, there's a network of community colleges around the state, but we need to see more investment into some of the equipment and vehicles, give people more of the hands-on experiences and how to work on these vehicles and that kind of training. And then finally, in terms of automotive manufacturers and suppliers retooling, we need to see our manufacturing sector make a pivot towards electrification, because that's going to be the dominant technology, and we just can't afford economically to just lose a lot of jobs. I mean, way down the road in the future, we will not see the kind of legacy transmissions and internal combustion engines. We make a lot of that right now in Ohio, and so we need to help that industry pivot more towards the electrified side of that. And then, we've got the grant that we were talking about earlier with MORPC, investing in workforce, and again, making sure that there's equitable access to that kind of training and those kind of jobs in all communities. And so that's another aspect of the work we're doing on workforce. And just in case I don't get a chance, I wanted to make a shameless plug for an event that we're having ourselves October the 15th, which is a Friday. It's a free event. It's a networking event at Columbus State Community College. You mentioned that because they're one of our major partners on the workforce side. It is a technologies and solutions showcase. So basically an expo with a lot of our industry members who have a chance to come out and showcase what they're doing. There'll be a lot of vehicles there, opportunities to do ride and drives, and then a lot of opportunities to have conversations with people there. It's from, I believe, either 10 or 11 in the morning until 4 p.m. It is free, and so if you go to our website, you can register for our newsletter, or just look me up that way, and then we can, we'd be happy to send you more information about it.
What a great Friday afternoon activity for an office team too. Get out and kind of see this stuff firsthand. Thanks for telling them about that. So workforce, and the workforce guru is sitting here, so I'm going to give you the end of this because you have so much to say. But I'll tell the little bit that I know. First, we at MORPC have been kind of delving into the economic development area with our partners at One Columbus. And so we've been working with many of the LEADOs, or lead economic development officials in the region, to really identify places where we can help them elevate either projects that they need or certain, workforce components that they're needing to bring into the mix. And so this is part of it. Honestly, it's just a small piece of it. There are many goals that we have in Central Ohio that we're helping with, but that was probably the biggest thing we're doing with workforce at MORPC, as we spend a lot more time on infrastructure. And then as I pivot to you, Rich, the one thing that does excite me is this opportunity for young people. The county engineer and ODOT, they use drones to go out and inspect their bridges now, right? So if you have tight spaces that, are part of your work that you need to use even maybe a nanotechnology to do that, this is the kind of training stuff kids can go after now. And what I love about it is this is something that those gamers, right? This is a skill that gamers can actually go and put into work in the real world. I'm horrible. I have a drone, and it spends more time on the ground than it does in the air or a tree. But young kids who are really good at gaming, this is their thing. And there's some programs for that here in the state, right?
That's right. Yeah. So we've got training to become a drone pilot that's offered at many high schools, at career tech centers, at community colleges. ODOT has some free training to get that license. And again, that's just the beginning. From there, then you can pick up all sorts of additional skills, and it gets more advanced from there. And the gaming that's real. I mean, you've got esports. That's a thing that's developing skills that are valuable in the 21st century workplace. And you've got groups like the FAA recruiting gamers for like future air traffic controllers. So you think about all these technologies, and you think about the development life cycle of how long it'll take some of these to really be in market. If it's 10 or 15 years, and you look at a middle schooler right now, it is their problem to solve, because they're going to be using this when they enter the workforce and on their second and third job. So, I mean, Sam nicely covered a lot of the things that have to happen for upskilling today's workforce, and we're involved with that. And we are equally involved in the K-12 space. We've got a program this year called Smart Mobility Ambassadors. We're training up high school students to run engagement programs with K through 8 students in their neighborhood or all around Central Ohio. We're just getting rolling on that program, so we've got information out there on our website about it. We're recruiting school partners, we're recruiting students, and I would be remiss if I didn't emphasize our focus on equity and access. I am so glad that keeps coming up. Huge issue, and programs like Ambassador are designed with that end goal in mind. The other thing that I'll mention briefly as we're wrapping up on workforce is about getting people to work, and this is kind of a segue into the future event that Saki mentioned. Some great examples were mentioned, like literally the Great Shuttle is a wonderful example. Yeah, you've got Coda Plus, you've got a lot of innovative activity happening here in Central Ohio. If you are at all interested in learning more about the topic of getting people to work, I'd encourage you to check out an initiative called the Paradox Prize in Northeast Ohio, covering 18 counties up there, a wonderful program that's been creatively using grant funding to fund several different pilots as diverse as repurposing church vans during the week, to some electric vehicles with Sway Mobility, Share Mobility, a homegrown Columbus startup doing some great work with employment partners up there. Of course, transit partners doing some great work. And why is it called the Paradox Prize? The paradox is no car, no job, no job, no car. It's this cycle that a lot of people unfortunately find themselves stuck in. How do you break out of that? And so why is DriveOhio talking about this? Well, we're thinking a few moves ahead on this, so when these technologies we're working with are ready to plug into that system, there is a system to plug into. And so we're talking about policy. We're talking with students at Ohio State. We did a great innovative project with their Rapid Innovation program out of the Glenn Policy College, and they developed a dashboard that could be piloted for transportation across county lines, which we know is where the system kind of breaks down sometimes. A lot of people trying to get from Franklin County up to Union County to get to work. We're talking with Union County Moves about how they could have a dashboard for that and how it could be scaled across the state on the Ohio Means Jobs website. So lots more we could dig into, but I think I'll stop there.
Oh, thanks, Richard. Yeah, there's just so much. So I think you got a good taste of where we're at and where the future is now and where it's going. I think it all relates back to jobs, where Rich ended here. A lot of these things lead to jobs. Those jobs get people stuff. That stuff you bring to them. So I think it's a very good connection for this crowd. I want to thank you for listening, and I hope that we can continue engaging this conversation as we wrap up. And then, Don, are you up next? Oh, Zaki, go ahead. Thank you.
Thank you, Thea. Yeah, really great conversation. And if you think that logistics didn't include literally everyone, even the gamers are now getting involved in legislation. So really exciting conversation there. Just a special thanks to MORPC, Clean Fuels Ohio, and DriveOhio for coming today, sharing their expertise. Like I mentioned before, we are going to have a follow-up conversation to specifically talk about workforce transportation. So that includes what Rich mentioned, CODA, Share, Enterprise, etc. So stay tuned for more information on that. It will likely be virtual with a component down in the Groveport area. They offered to come down to the golf course there in Groveport, so more to come there. Special thank you to BBI Logistics, who gave us this beautiful space here in their building. Really enjoyed this intimate setting of a Logistics Council event. We haven't really had this smaller setting before, so really nice feel today. Also wanted to make a special mention of Worthington Energies. We have our cards here today. If you submit your utility bill, you have a chance to win a free ticket to Clam Bake, so feel free to do that. The cards are going to be out front on the registration table. And lastly, DeBella Subs for lunch today. Afterwards, you can all come out this door and mingle a little bit out of this space and get yourself a DeBella Sub. So I'll let Don come up and announce our winners for the Crimson Cup.
Great. How about one more round of applause for Sam, Rich, and Thea? You're great. Thea, where have we been hiding you, Thea? We need to get Thea behind the mic a little bit more, I think. Great. Super. And how about for Zaki Bashir, who leads our Columbus Region Logistics Council? And I want to make one more special shout out to Jeremy Banta. Jeremy, give everybody a wave. Jeremy teaches logistics at Columbus State. has a long background in logistics and chairs our Columbus Region Logistics Council and our organizing committee. Jeremy, thanks for all you do for our chamber. It says introduce yourself. I am Don DePero. I'm your president and CEO of our Columbus Chamber of Commerce, which is great. And I'd like to announce now our 10 winners. Jess Wave. Jess is our tremendous event director who puts all these great events on. And just see Jess and you'll get your gift card and a bag of coffee from Crimson Cup Coffee and Teas. And another shout out to Greg Hubert, who's a treasured board member of our chamber and the founder and CEO of Crimson Cup. And they are, and I'll apologize in advance if I mispronounce anybody's name, Christine Butcher from Eastland Fairfield Career Technical Schools, Jeffrey Schreiber from Hikma Pharmaceuticals, Carrie Nicholson, Keeler and Nadler Family Wealth, Matthew Knopf, WRL Advertising, Austin Poe from Cornica Cosing, Ali Azimi from ACOM, John Gallagher, CHA Consulting, Chris Laughlin from Zipline Logistics, Kurt Berlin from NAI Ohio Equities, and Patrick McCurdy from Worthington Energy Consultants. Congratulations, and you can see Jess as soon as we wrap up. Thanks again to our tremendous presenting partners, without whom, of course, we couldn't bring you these great logistics events. Schneider Downs, the accounting and professional services firm, and Sedgwick for your continued support. And if you're a chamber member, if you haven't seen Sedgwick, it's a really easy way to save up to 51% on your workers' comp. Painless, call them, have them come out, and save money on your workers' comp insurance. Again, another shout out to BBI Logistics, DeBella's Subs, Crimson Cup Coffee and Tea, and I have to put one shameless plug in. September 30th, if my math is right, that's 3 weeks from today, 3 weeks from tonight, our 97th clam bake and lobster feast. I've been to every one of them, and they're just phenomenal. We're closing in on 900 tickets. We're closing in on selling it out, 1,000 or 1,100 of your closest and dearest friends. We're going to do a great job of protecting everyone at the Clam Bake and Lobster Feast. It's a great event. We'd love to see you all there. You could probably see Jess if you'd like to attend. And again, that's at our Columbus Zoo and Aquarium. Our Consumer Evolution, the Retail Summit, which our chamber has been putting on for over 10 years now, is October 28th at lower.com Field. If you haven't been to our great new soccer stadium, here's your chance, and to attend a great event. And our CRLC CMP annual winter mixer, as he mentioned earlier, that's December 2nd at Brewdog's main campus in Canal Winchester. You can just visit us at columbus.org/events to learn about all of our great events. So that's it. Stay for lunch, enjoy yourself, and especially enjoy this Chamber of Commerce day that we provided for you. So, have a great Friday and great weekend, everyone. Thanks for being here with us.